there's a question from one of our attendees, which is not, it's not specific to China. The question is, how will opportunities for international teachers change in the Middle East? For example, the Emirates or Saudi, and says fear of COVID is leading to mass blanket deportations of foreign workers from Saudi. So this kind of relates to the general, fear of COVID and the fact that, international education jobs are very much based upon mobility, right? So I know you don't have specific insight into into Saudi, but what would be your kind of overall outlook on how this would affect other places?
I would be interested to see if that mass deportation of foreign nationals was related to a number of things regarding whether it's for their safety or whether it's for, or are those the more educated, skilled workforce that are being deported, or are those more of like the blue collar kind of, or service industry workers? So I'd be interested to know, see the statistics on that. Were those, were there being teachers? I have spoken to quite a few teachers in the Middle East. No one has mentioned anything that to me recently. So I'd be interested to kind of see the numbers behind that and the kinds of workers being deported. But I know there's a substantial growth in the Middle East. China has always been competing with Middle Eastern schools in terms of attracting top talent before COVID. The pool of the number of qualified, educated, experienced teachers was quite small. And China was always battling, and the salaries here were like, schools were always, I felt like, more battling Middle Eastern schools more so than the school down the street because of the salaries that were being offered and the benefits and pay that those schools were able to support that Chinese schools, especially within the bilingual international sector, are not able to keep up with.
Okay, so that ties in with another question we've got. The question, do you see teacher and administrator salaries increasing or decreasing in the near future?
I think that if you're here in China, or you're lucky and will have the ability to come here, I think that you'll see, I already know for a fact, my organization has made exceptions to the approved salary scale for the COVID-19 situation, where we see teachers really getting paid a bit beyond what we would have normally pegged them at within the market and within our salary scale. So we've made an adjustment to that. I think you'll see more and more as schools realize what their needs are. Like I said, I just think that a lot of schools are not sure of what their needs are, because it's kind of like the chicken and the egg in terms of, we don't want to overcommit in terms of number of teachers we're hiring, and then how are the teachers abroad, will they be able to come back or will they not be able to come back? And then, so once there's a little bit more clarity around this and schools can kind of really make strong decisions budget-wise and execute on that, I think you will see a big surge in terms of schools becoming more aggressive for foreign talent, especially really qualified foreign talent within China, for sure.
Okay, great. Interesting question. And it'll be interesting to see how it plays out, if it's just opportunities and like salary increases available to people who are already in country. Because it's not just China where I've seen schools that are shifting towards, only wanting to hire people that are already in country.
No, for sure, for sure. I think
around that.
Yeah, I agree with that. I'm sure it's definitely, they say a bird, a bird in the hand is worth two in the bush, right? So I think that if you can identify someone here that's good, and I think you'll see schools become more aggressive in terms of trying to headhunt or poach teachers from other schools with much bigger lucrative offers. But I think that's all going to depend on, what happens. Will teachers be able to come back by August that are in the UK and in America? And, we actually have hired teachers who are currently in the UK or currently in other countries, uh, planning on them being able to come here at the start of the school year. So, I think, again, I wish it was much clearer, but I think everyone is just kind of taking that wait and see approach, and including the parents who are really fitting the bill for all of this. So, they will kind of want to see what's going to happen as well. And,
Okay, great.
because just to kind of like, but I just want to like talk about that point again, because in China, the tuition is quite big, and once you've paid that, it's, you don't know how long until you're going to get it back. If something were to happen, there was a second wave and the school is closed, I think that probably a lot of parents might not want to pay that much money for the way the current online education structure is, especially in the bilingual international schools, right? So as you move up the chain, I think the quality of these programs becomes better. But so I think a lot of parents are really holding that tuition money hostage to make sure that my kid will be in school September 1st. And so I think it's just kind of like this wait and see. And I think that as we get closer to a COVID-free China, which, the numbers are trending that way, you'll see that parents will become more and more confident in their kids going back to school.
Okay, then just the last question that I'd like to ask you. You've already mentioned if someone's an early years teacher, that they should maybe think about broadening their search, focusing maybe on going a little bit higher into primary to make sure that they have opportunities. Is there any other sort of advice or words of wisdom you would give to someone who would be in like a job search in education at this point?
Yeah, I think what you should do. I think one thing that's very important is if you're looking at finding an opportunity, I think you should look at identifying the kind of school and the kind of culture that you want to work in that school. Do the research on where you want to work, and then find the decision maker, like find the principal on LinkedIn or find the principal's email on the school's website and contact them directly. Reach out to them and say, look, I've been teaching nursery for this many years, but I'm really interested in this primary position and skills to be able to do this. And, I'd like to just have a conversation about it. So I think directly, not just applying into the abyss and just putting your resume, identify where you want to work and what you really want, and then try to contact that key decision maker. Because I'll tell you, if it's crazy to think, like here I am in this position, and how rarely people actually reach out to me directly and say, hey, I'm really interested in your school. I spent a lot of time reading about it. I contacted teachers. I really like what I've heard. Try to separate yourself from the herd and try to get the attention of the person who can help move you along in the process.
Okay, that's solid advice. Let's just take, there's one other last question here that I think is unanswered. Maybe two unanswered questions here that we could get to very quickly, because I don't want to take all of your time this evening. You've already been really generous with it. So
No
one
problem.
quick question there, that is the time that's required to get a work visa. So how much time does that actually take? And then a second one is the political climate between China and other countries. How is that affecting growth in international education?
So That's a very good question, and that's a very complicated question for sure. So I'll take the easy one first. And with usually you're looking at about a month in terms of once you have your documents in place, you're going to be able to get everything processed and be able to come, especially to China, within a month. But I think honestly, right now, with the way things are, and China is great about this, in that they can just change the laws and the processes overnight if needed. So if there's a situation where there's a huge shortfall of educators and school is going to be starting, visa processes were delayed because of the virus, you'll see exceptions made within the system or changes made within the system. So I wouldn't be too worried about that. If you are planning on coming in here, once you get a job, get your background check done, and then the school should be able to help you authenticate your degree online, and then the process is pretty much in the school's hands after that. So, but don't get too worried about, oh, I got a job in late July, and I'm not sure I'll be able to get the documents processed in time, because I think there will be some changes that the government will probably enact to help support the visa processing. In Hong Kong, for example, you can go there and start working while your visa is being processed. So perhaps the government here could do something like that, where you can come, and as long as you have your documents, that while the process, you can come, something like that. Now, in terms of the second question, I'll say that for me, as a U.S. national here in China, I know that there is always a lot of banter back and forth, especially from the administration in the U.S. And I believe that, a lot of that is, just like saber rattling, or just trying to move specific initiatives forward. But I'll tell you this, as somebody who's lived here for 9 years, in that, I've never been treated poorly. No one in my family has ever been treated poorly because I was an American. Chinese people in general have really high regard for Americans. I think recently there's a lot of confusion about the choices and the decisions that they see Americans making, and China has done a good job at highlighting those on the nightly news every day about some of these decisions and choices that the U.S. is making in terms of their approach and strategy to dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic. So I wouldn't be too worried about that at the moment. But things do change, and we can just worry about the things that we can control, right?
Okay. Thank you so much for all of the insight you've been able to provide, Andrew. I think we've covered all the questions that people have asked, and I think there's a lot of practical advice in there, and also some kind of deep questions that people maybe need to reflect on for themselves to be able to make their own decisions about, in terms of their own kind of planning for the future of their career in education. But definitely it has given me some good things to think about.
Yeah, sure. Can you hear me? Hello? Oh, hello?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah. Sorry, I lost you there. So I was gonna say, it's been a, I wish we could maybe have had this conversation a little earlier in the day. It's a little bit late here, so I'm sorry if I rambled on to all our guests and the people who attended. I really appreciate it. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn. If you have a question that you didn't think of, and you didn't get, or you didn't have a chance to ask, go ahead and shoot me a message on LinkedIn, and I'll do my best to help you and answer your question. And thanks again, Alex, for setting this up. I really appreciated the opportunity to share what I know.
I'm really glad you could join us. To everyone who's an attendee, after the video is ready, that will be shared by email with everyone. And since Andrew is offering the opportunity to come, I'll put Andrew's contact info in that email as well, so that anyone who wants to reach out can reach out.
Great.
But I think for now, that is probably all we can really do. So I again thank you for giving your time generously on a late evening in Shanghai. And I look forward to connecting with you again really soon, Andrew.
Great. Thanks again, everybody. Have a great day or a great night wherever you may be.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.